Today we're talking Unbound Gravel.
Talking about Gravel City Night Out.
Gravel City Night Out, July 16th here in Emporia, Kansas, gravelcitynightout.com. And we're talking about my new bike build. Neil, it is the last week in June, which is about 2 weeks later than I planned on filming this episode, but we've gone and survived Unbound 2022.
Correct, yeah, we're past Unbound Gravel 2022. As you say, it's been a couple weeks since the event, but I would say the reason that we've survived Unbound 2022 is because we had a few weeks to recover, Matt.
We have had a few weeks to recover now, which was desperately needed. But it was an amazing week. I had so much fun. This was my first time in my role at the bike shop, Gravel City Adventure Supply Company. You came in multiple nights and helped us in there. You did quite a bit.
Yeah, so I was all over the place throughout the entire, really from Wednesday on through Saturday. In the shop on Wednesday, helping out. That was the night of the Hall of Fame inductees, and so they had that, and then they had the after party. So then I was roped into running security outside to make sure that everybody entered the proper way.
Were you security or more of a bouncer?
I think I was kind of a bouncer. I mean, if you look at my body and my body type, I think bouncer.
It was kind of one of those Wednesday afternoon text messages to Neil and go, "Hey man, how would you like to help out tonight or today?" And then it turned into tonight, and yeah.
No, it was good. It was fun. I enjoyed being there. It was crazy just to see how busy the shop and everything was on Wednesday. I mean, we're talking about, again, days before the event still at that point, and the place was busy. I stood by the door and greeted folks before the after party happened. I think the shop was open until about 7 or 7:30, and really folks were still coming in buying stuff, I think, after the shop closed officially, and it was wild to see how many people were already in town, how many folks that watched the show that were like, "Hey, we know you," that were already here in town on Wednesday. It was awesome, and like I say, the week didn't stop.
Wednesday was a lot of fun. Shout out to Leland and the crew putting on the Gravel Hall of Fame there. We weren't sure what to think this first time. Yeah, the first time for anything's always a learning curve, and I think it was a really great evening for the 7 honorees that were honored in downtown Emporia at the Granada Theater. And then, like Neil was saying, we had an after party there at the bike shop. Really cool. Giant Bikes helped sponsor that Free State Brewing. They made some really cool glasses with the Gravel City logo, the Hall of Fame logo on it. And our shop was packed shoulder to shoulder, much like the rest of the week.
Yeah, so I mean, it was funny. I was having a conversation inside the shop to some folks that had never been down here for the event before, and they're like, "Wow, this is crazy." And I'm like, this is Wednesday. Like, hold on a second. Like, wait till you see Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and get back to me. Because while things were pretty wild in the shop that night as far as the after party with the Hall of Fame, folks were just starting to roll into town. And having that 2-day expo, Thursday and Friday, you just got to see how many people really were here. Because I showed up for some of the group rides early on Thursday, and, I mean, we're talking hundreds of people, not 15, 20.
Yeah,
I'm talking like 300-400 people
on group
rides on Thursday. And again, the event's still 2 days off. It was just unbelievable to see, and I would say just overall for the event, the energy was at a level I don't think I've seen in a while, if not maybe ever. 2019, I wasn't able to be around a lot of it. I wasn't feeling good that entire week. 2018, the energy was pretty intense, pretty high, but man, it just was, I don't know, it was something I thought special this year.
Yeah, I mean, you probably had a chance to walk through the expo a lot more than I did. Thursday, Friday, maybe. I knew you were working with a Tailwind booth as well.
Yeah.
What did you think of just the size of the expo?
It was wild. First of all, I had no idea where Tailwind's booth was going to be at, so being that I live less than
It was practically in the studio.
Yeah, no, I know.
I mean, when you talk about the scale of the expo, I know I asked you a question, now I'm jumping in. Literally, if you were in the bike shop, Gravel City, and you walked all the way to the expo, you were darn near in the studio. Yeah, you were within 300 feet of the studio.
You could have thrown a rock in the studio from the end of the expo, for sure. Yeah, I really wasn't sure where, like, say, where they were set up at. I had no idea. I was just like, yep, I'll meet you there, and start helping out on Thursday. So I rode my trusty Niner and came over because the house is less than a mile away. And it's like, I'll figure out where they're at. And I rode through the expo at that point and happened to stumble upon them. But it was just unbelievable how many booths, how large it was. I know that this is what they were hoping for last year. Actually, I think this is what they were hoping for ultimately back in 2020 as well, before the cancellation. And last year, I know the expo numbers were down, but it was unreal to see it that full 2 blocks stretched like it was.
Yeah, it was incredible to see. From my perspective, everything went well in the store. I learned a lot, considering I started in April, 2 months to prepare for all of this. I have a long list of improvements for next year, but we survived it. It was a lot of fun. It was so much fun getting to meet everybody. All week we had people, and if you watched the last show, which you probably did if you're watching this one, hey, come in and meet us. I had a blast meeting people.
Yeah.
Just getting to interact with those of you that listen and watch the show was a great time.
Yeah, I love that. We were down at the expo talking with Sean, the guy from Tailwind that was there, and we're hanging out, telling people about Tailwind, and every now and then somebody that watched the show or has watched the show in the past come up and introduce themselves to me, and I didn't, hey, my name's Neil, not Minister of Gravel. I'd like folks to also know my real name, and and then they would tell me their real name, and then I'd be like, okay, now what's the Instagram name, so that we can kind of
know who you are.
Yeah, who exactly you are. But it was just unbelievable, the amount of folks, and Sean was joking with me. He's like, man, you should run for mayor, the amount of people that know you. And so I had to explain to him that,
see, this is the thing is, I don't know that many people know us, Neil. And I don't do this show to be known by anybody. But the thing is,
they come say hi.
I literally think when I look at our YouTube, our Libsyn analytics for this podcast, literally everybody that watched that episode had to be Emporia in Wednesday through Saturday of Unbound week.
Yeah, and just about everybody came and said hi.
They must have. So I really appreciated it.
Absolutely.
It truly makes coming in and doing these shows worthwhile for us, and that's the reason why we do it.
Yeah, I had a blast. Like I say, I helped that Tailwind's booth for a couple days, and that was fun. But like I say, you took on something new, Matt. I want to know what challenges, what it was like there in the shop. I mean, this is something, like you say, you've been doing this since April. And you jump into what is a very busy atmosphere 2 months before what is the largest gravel event in the world. What was it like?
What was it like?
What was it like?
It was great.
Okay.
That's the short answer. The long answer is I'm really glad the gravel cycling industry has such great ambassadors and reps. I have a long list in our system of people I could call that would answer my phone call anytime, day or night. I'd call and go, how do you prepare for 4,000 racers about to descend upon your shop? And the honest answer with that is no one knows, because there's not many shops in the world that have this situation where literally the start-finish line, the expo is out one door, the other one's out the back door.
Yeah.
Like, it was a crazy time, but literally the industry is full of great people that were willing to take my phone calls. The past management of the store, Aaron and Melanie, took a lot of my phone calls. Adam Blake came down and worked the store floor for a couple days. Aaron and Melanie were both down working. All of the owners of the store were in at different times. My wife, I owe a huge shout out to Madeline, because if you checked out at the register, she probably checked you out. She came in and volunteered. We were having some staffing issues like everybody's having right now. You can't find enough staff, and let alone on an event week like Unbound in Emporia, Kansas. Well, finding people was a hard deal.
I mean, that's what led to you calling me not once but twice during the week to say, hey, can you come in? I mean, Wednesday was one of them we talked about, but then Friday, after I'd been at the expo all day, you're like, hey, so can you come over to the shop on Friday too afterwards?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, but the thing is, I'm an insider, but not part of the shop. I'm not an employee. I'm not in there all the time, even though I'm in there a lot. But from my viewpoint, it seemed like, boy, things ran smoothly. I know I don't have the full, but as far as an outsider, again, who's not seeing every last little thing going on behind the scenes and all the different phone calls and other conversations that are having to be had, I'm seeing folks coming in, getting what they needed. I know that there were different technical issues and other problems throughout the week that are going to happen. And it seems like they always happen at the worst times. But, overall, when I was in there Wednesday and when I was in there Friday and when I kind of jumped in between in different hours on other days as well, it seemed like it was going probably as smooth as it could go, considering everything.
And it went smooth because of those people I said in the industry. Yeah. We've had a great team assembled. If you come into our shop and think that's our normal shop, that is definitely not our normal shop. We had, I think, 6 mechanics in there. Paul Reardon from Blue Steel Bikes. We had Keith from Cycle Fix in Lawrence. We had Sarah Underwood. We had Chelsea. We had Garrett. We had Isaac. We had a lot of people, and we had Mike Spilker from SRAM, the guy from SRAM type deal, and Dan Jennings passed through. Nathan Kinsley from Shimano was in. That's the thing about this event. It brings everybody to town, so we have a lot of people to lean on when we have some technical questions, because guess what? There's a lot of these parts that we don't see every day in Emporia, Kansas. So our support team was absolutely fantastic, and I learned so much from just that team of mechanics. After the store was closed, that next couple of hours we'd be there just talking to them. How do you do this or that or handle this or that? Where they've got, we had probably over 100 years of industry experience just up wrenching on bikes.
Yeah.
So, but that was the shop side. This gets us to Friday night. We go in, I think me and Isaac were there 3:30, 4 o'clock, race day morning. The story of the week had been weather. What was the weather going to be? And I'm trying to think back to what our storylines were leading up to it.
Well, the storylines, we'd been kind of relatively wet around here. We'd had a lot of rain, but it seemed like the rain would come, the roads would dry out, the rain would come, the roads would dry out. And it wasn't too long before the event where we started kind of getting a lot of rain, not just in town, but west of here, that was starting to bring those river levels up. Mm-hmm. And we were playing with dangerous...
Getting out of town levels.
Yes, getting out of town issues, exactly. That's perfect. Where those river levels come up just enough, it blocks a lot of options as far as getting out of town.
Emporia is a town of twin rivers.
Yes.
We used to have a festival called the Twin Rivers Festival here in Emporia, Kansas. South of town, where my family farms around, is the Cottonwood River, and that's the one you cross on the bridge right before you make a sharp right-hand turn. That's the Cottonwood River. At 22 feet, it floods the south bank there on that road you were in. We were sitting about 19 to 20 feet all week there on that, and normally it's about 2 feet. So, and north of town we have the Neosho River, but that's a north route problem.
But that was obviously a conversation, and if you watched out there were some people that were finding the mud road here or there that's close to town and rolling their bike through it to show how muddy things were. But the reality is the roads were drying off well. I rode a 50-miler the week before the event down to Madison and back, and was dry, dusty roads the whole way. And the roads really, again, as we've talked about before, do absorb the moisture pretty well.
Yeah.
Unless it just happens to be raining at the moment that you're on the roads riding your bike.
And I think we've got to give credit due to Ben Sachs, race director. This was really his first year directing a full event that he's put together. Last year he came in about a month before the event. But actually, I was talking to Ben today about this kind of being his first one that he got to put together from scratch. He designed this route. And to his credit, there was mud on this route.
Oh, yeah.
But there wasn't miles upon miles upon miles of the 2015 hike-a-bike mud.
And the reality is you're not going to... You can't make a 200-mile course out here without having to cross at least some dirt road that will be muddy if
Correct.
It rains. It's just... It's not possible. But he did, it seems like, limit as many of those catastrophic kind of... You've got to get off the bike. You have to walk it.
Do you know, when we talk weather on this route, we make it to Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Like I said, we were in the shop 4 o'clock, 5:30 there. Last minute batteries that needed. We sold a lot of sunglasses right there. People forgot them on the
Garmin's.
We did sell a 10:30 that morning, last minute. But we were there to help people out. We were there in case someone broke a chain the night before, had a flat tire. Those type of things. Honestly, when we talk weather, the 200 milers roll out at 6 a.m. What time did the rain move in? 7 o'clock? Maybe 7:30?
It was after 7. It was actually, no, it had to be later than that because I rolled down to Madison, excuse me, not Madison, Eureka around 8 o'clock.
So it might have been 8:30 in Emporia, which the saving grace was it was raining while you were riding. Yeah. That rain didn't come through in the middle of the night and make it tacky because for everybody out there, I've heard it a lot. Why did the early pros not seem as muddy? because it wasn't as muddy when they went through.
Well, yeah. So I was down in Eureka, and just to kind of tell folks, so I went down. I was running support crew that day, helping out a couple riders, and so I got down to Eureka relatively early. And as I'm riding down there, there's just a little bit of drizzle that was hitting me on 99 north of Olpe. Other than that, there was no rain, no moisture, nothing. And again, the riders were already at that point 2+ hours in. So, the lead riders are moving, somewhere probably around mile 40, mile 45 at that point. They really are down the course. They're south at that point. At that point, they're past the one side of Texaco. It's not the side that they descended down, but they're past that water stop and going off towards Teeter Hill. And so they were south of everything.
Yeah.
We're down there in Eureka, and we've got no moisture. And Brandy, my wife, sends me a message and says, it is absolutely pouring here in Emporia. And I'm like, there's no rain. There's nothing going on down here in Eureka. It's absolutely dry. And I was probably down in Eureka, I would say, until about 4.5 hours into the 200-mile race. And just at that point, I left, and it had just started to drizzle in Eureka at that point. So 4.5 hours in.
Well, welcome to spotty thunderstorms in Kansas.
Yeah, 4.5 hours in, they were dry. They were good. Nobody was coming in wet.
And when you think of this course, it leaves Emporia and does kind of a big loop. So, I mean, on this side, mile 50, they might not have been in it.
Yeah.
But guess what was coming?
Yeah.
Where that storm crossed out there in the middle. So they might not have had it at 50, but they might have had it at 150.
Correct, yeah. And so, they're avoiding it. So, but I leave Eureka, and as I leave Eureka, I look back up towards the north, and I say, oh, my goodness, the course is just going to get wet, and it's going to be bad. By the time I'm in Eureka, Matt, the water, so the roads in Eureka kind of, crest at the top and roll down to the edge is pretty normal, but the water is probably 10 feet off the curb, just rolling like a river. I mean, everybody's having to move their tents or other things kind of up a little bit off the curbs because the rain is just coming down so heavy that the roads down in Madison there within the checkpoint could not handle it. And that's when folks were starting to come in.
So you're kind of alluding to it, but how was it crewing? I mean, this is a new dynamic for you. This is back to, I had new dynamics, you had new dynamics that day?
So I'd never really done a whole lot of crewing because I ride my bike usually at these events.
You've always been crewed.
Yes, I've always been crewed. I've always been taken care of. I think at most I've maybe taken care of my chain probably on the 200 here or there occasionally. Well, I've lubed the chain here or there occasionally, but that's about it. Otherwise, it's hand me my bottles, give me a slice of pizza at Casey's, whatever, and back on the bike and go. And so it was totally different. You sit there and you wait and you wait and you wait, and I got to be down there and watch the pointy end come through. Okay, so
see, and this is something I've got to jump in here because I'm remembering the text messages you and I were texting all day. This is something that blew my mind because it occurred to me at that moment. You've never seen leaders come through a checkpoint.
Oh, no.
Versus me, where you make a big deal when I went to Mid-South and rode for the first time.
Yeah.
I felt like I saw nobody all weekend at Mid-South,
Yeah.
our friends that are pros and whatnot, because I always stand around at the checkpoints and see these people with the cameras.
Yeah, I mean, the only other time I'd seen the lead come through was 2020 down at Mid-South. So that last 2020 mud year, right before COVID really kind of broke loose, I did watch there, but they came in as a group of 5, and it was a very neutral stop. It was slow. They were not in and out. They were cleaning the bikes, taking care of themselves, putting on new kits. There was really no racing through that zone that year. This year, man, those guys came in, and I just happened to catch Stetna. He was in. There was a group of 3 that came through first, and probably about 10, maybe 15 seconds behind them, there was a group of about 40, 45 that came through, and Stetna's stop was just up past where where we were all at. And I mean, I turn around, I walk back that way because I'm doing the Gravel Guru stories. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll get a quick story. Yep. And before I get there,
they're gone.
He's on his bike and gone, and I'm like, okay.
It's worth noting that the route is not the 3 checkpoint route.
Yeah.
Historic to the event.
Correct.
At 50, 100, 150.
Yeah.
They had neutral water about mile 40, checkpoint in Eureka at 75, and then
water about 120 and 125 in
Hamilton.
Hamilton, yeah, and then Madison was 160.
Yeah. So 2 checkpoints to receive support was it. this year. So not the 3 checkpoints. So this was, 70 miles into the day for them.
Yeah, and I mean, but again, it blew my mind how quick they were in and out. And so, I was helping out. So Ellen Campbell, she's one of the riders with Tailwind. She was in town, and her teammate Sarah Sturm, who's kind of up towards the pointy end of the women's race. I know she finished in the top 10. I don't remember exactly where, but I was helping a little bit with Sarah. It was more or less making sure she had her bottles on her bike, making sure that she had her new hydration pack on, ready to go. I was not touching bikes because that's not my expertise. And even when I was asked to help out Ellen, I'm like, you realize I can lube your chain. That's about what I got.
Maybe check tire pressure?
Yeah, I can do some of those things. Ultimately, a lot of that was taken care of because, again, I got to see how it was different at the front end. Ellen...
Did you learn anything that could help how you go to checkpoints in the future?
So definitely the way we'll talk about something here in a second, but definitely the way they set out their food.
Okay.
So, usually I told Brandy, hey, I want this, and this, no questions, just have that for me, and that's it. And then sometimes I roll in, I'm like, ooh, that would have been a really good idea to have this. So they had a nice table, basically a spread. I mean, it was no more than maybe a 3 foot by 2 foot, aluminum table set out that had the new bottles, and it had basically, here's a bunch of food options. What do you want? And Sarah would grab the things that she want, maybe eat a couple things while she was there. New sets of sunglasses if she needed to change out ones if it was muddy, rainy, etc. But just kind of having that spread set out to say, hey, maybe you want something different. Maybe you need this flavor or this flavor right now, or maybe you need to eat a little bit extra calories because you got a little bit behind here over the past, 3 hours, 3.5 hours. So here's some options that were kind of set out for you. And it was like, instead of just saying, okay, I want this and this is all you need to have there for me, to kind of see that spread was an interesting way that I had never really thought about doing it before. And again, it's for individual riders. Now I've seen, like, for instance, like the Mulready's crew, up here has done that, where they have, some long 8-foot tables set up with everything
anything
you
could
possibly want. But individualized, usually Brandy runs the support for me to have that kind of just set up where she could set everything out like that was pretty awesome. But what also kind of, again, blew my mind, just different stuff. I'm not at the pointy end. I'm not even at the middle pointy end. I'm mid back. That's me. I've never been.
Did you say mid pack or mid back?
Mid back.
Mid back.
Mid back. Yes. And in the mid back, if I have tire issues or flatting issues, kind of just take care of it and go. Well, Ellen, she had 6 punctures in that first chunk to Eureka. 6 punctures. I mean, so you get there and you just see...
Did she have a Dynaplug?
Yeah, I was going to say, you see one after another Dynaplug just slammed in there. And, she got there, and instead of throwing on a new tire right there, and it's a whole new wheel already set up ready to go, which, again, just... I saw that actually a couple times within the race. I think Dave did that for Amanda as well. When she came rolling into Madison, because she had some issues and saw that too. And just, a new wheel is what you need sometimes, as opposed to trying to change everything out with a tire.
Yeah, that makes it easier for sure. I'm glad she had her Dynaplug though.
Yeah, had her Dynaplug.
Had a Dynaplug. Had a lot of people come in talking about Dynaplugs. I have one on me all the time now.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you learned this about the checkpoints. You learned that side of it. I'll say for me, Saturday was very, very weird. Like, very weird. Like, I'm watching the Flow Sports broadcast on the TVs in the shop. I kind of ended up pulling up a stool because we were done working on bikes for the most part. We had a few trickle in. Actually, we had a guy touring across the Midwest. Just happened to hit Emporia, Kansas on Saturday. That's Unbound Day. Cool that we got him set up with a new wheel set and whatnot.
Buddy.
Yeah, I mean, you always have that kind of stuff trickle through. Cool.
Yeah.
It's for the moment. But we were, for the most part, done working on bikes. Like, the hard part of the week was done. At that point, we had people in there helping sell some merchandise, some T-shirts, some of that stuff. But, like, I am so used. Like, I know these roads. I know these roads inside and out there. It was very weird being in the bike shop all day. The most I went outside is on the 200, we were watching the broadcast, and there was about a 30-second delay from real time happening out the window to happening in the shop. I saw him attack on Highland Hill, the lead group there. I think it was 5, broke down to 3 there for the sprint finish. And I saw the attack happen on Highland Hill, and I had time to walk out the door and see the sprint finish in real life, and walk back in and see the replay of it happen on TV to know what actually happened. But that was the most action I saw of racing all day.
Man, like I say, it was cool to see all the folks come through the aid stations, come through Madison, and you could see as folks were rolling through Madison who was hurting, who had put a lot of energy and effort into those last miles between Eureka and Madison, and who still had some in the tank to kind of put a chase in or to hopefully make up some ground. But there was some looks on some faces that were clear that, boy, what did I get myself into?
So as we're talking about the 200, I have to give one major shout out to Hunter Williams, Loco Emporia guy, single speed champion.
Yeah.
Overall. So that's awesome to have a local still out there being on the podium in such an elite event. So
winning the single speed. That's
shout
crazy.
out to him. We might see if we can get him on sometime on the show here to talk.
Awesome. Yeah.
Maybe do a single speed episode.
Why would we do a single speed episode?
We'll talk about that more later. So kind of unpacking Unbound. Yeah. There's one subject we have not brought up. Who did you get your selfie with that morning?
Let's see. Who did I get selfie? Oh, yeah, Sagan. Are you talking about the... Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Peter Sagan coming to Emporia, Kansas for the 100?
You know what? It was very clear. He was here to have a good time. He was here to just stretch his legs out. I think enjoy the ride aspect. It was clear he wasn't really around town a whole lot. He wasn't doing a whole lot with, and I get it. I mean, let's just put it this way. So, everybody's looking for him, excuse me, at the start of the 100, and trying to figure out where he's at. And they've got a pro group set up in the front, and where everybody's looking, don't see him. And all of a sudden, this just crowd emerges. And there he is. And there's Daniel next to him. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay.
We had a lot of people on Thursday and Friday saying hey to us, Neil.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine what it'd be like to be Sagan.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, it was, and the thing is, let me be very clear. He was totally cool with it. I mean, here he is. He's lined up at the beginning of the 100. He was not out at the front of the line at that point. He was actually just in front of the non-pro riders.
Okay.
So he had sat back for a little bit, and just folks had come over and take pictures with him. And they just had space there for folks to come over and take pictures with him. And he signed some folks' books and did some other things, and after probably what seemed like maybe 5 minutes, it might not even have been that long. I mean, it was a pretty short period of time. It was time to roll up to the start line because, I mean, we were looking around, and it was 6:50, and no one had saw him. Mm-hmm. And so it was time to get up to the start line. And
I think it's absolutely fantastic what happened. And if you've seen social media, this is, 3 weeks ago now. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you've seen this out there. Like, he literally spent 30 to 45 minutes in downtown Madison, the checkpoint for the 100, drinking coffee, taking selfies, coming to embrace the event that we have here in our hometown in the Flint Hills of Kansas.
Yeah, it was clear if you look at the timing chips and everything, like, he rode hard for the beginning.
He paced the field.
He paced the field, and they put down a little bit of a solid pace, probably a adrenaline-fueled pace, I would say, for most of those riders maybe that were riding around him.
The 100 did get caught in the rain pretty early in the day, though, unlike the 200.
Yeah, no, they did.
That pace into Madison was harder.
Yeah, and so, they paced him for about those first 20 or so miles, and after that, there was a video on Daniel's stories, and some rider that was out there basically broke his front wheel in half. I mean, just completely snapped it right in half. And, he's just having a rough time. And there's those two guys just rolling around, kind of trying to cheer him on, help him, not feel completely defeated in the situation, which has got to be tough when you're 20, 30 miles maybe into your day and your day is over. You're walking your, front carbon wheel, most likely, that is snapped in half down the road. It's a tough feeling, but also really cool when those guys kind of stop and chat with you. And like you say, we went down to Madison, and
just had
the amount of pictures he took in Madison, sat down and had a cup of coffee, hung out, popped a wheelie as he rode out of Madison. I saw that video rolling around. I mean, just had a good time. And that was cool. I think that was probably even a better thing than if he came to race.
100% agree with you. Like, I remember, and it was probably 2017, 2018, we were starting to get an influx or a rush of the pro riders,
Yeah.
pro tour riders coming from Europe to want to take part in this event in Kansas. And there was a lot of questions going on. Is this good for us? Is this bad for us?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting in a press conference. It must have been 2018. I think it was. And one of the quotes that stood out to me from a tour riding team member was, we didn't come to Kansas to bring the world tour. We came to Kansas to figure out how to take this gravel vibe, this atmosphere that you guys put on with a race, back to the world tour to make it fun. So I can't help but think the way he handled himself here in Kansas and riding around just having fun. Obviously, the Tour de France starts in like a week, and he's out to race.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to come and just have a great time on a bike, I think was the goal.
Yeah, and it seemed like that was the case. I mean, again, he seemed to have a good time and embraced at least a portion of what the event is all about. Again, I think hanging out there in Madison for the 30, 45 minutes was a really cool thing to do, to stop and check on a rider who's busted a front wheel. Again, really cool thing to do. Was not necessary. Could have easily kept riding and riding hard, and reality could have raced the entire 100 miles, as a race, but instead, like you say, maybe find out what this whole gravel scene here in Emporia, Kansas, and other areas is all about.
Absolutely. Neil, we've talked for the first half hour of the show, Unbound.
Yeah.
Anything else we need to unpack?
Can't wait for 2023. I think
I can awesome. Wait a little bit longer for 2023.
I understand, yes.
We are finally recovering.
Can wait a little bit. Sure.
But I loved every minute of it. I learned so much. We both tried new roles out this year. Yeah. And it was a fantastic time. Loved meeting everybody. On to the rest of the summer, though. Just because Unbound's over doesn't mean gravel and riding is over for the year. Actually, for you and I, we probably crank it up now.
Cranking up is exactly what's happening right now. In fact, I've since basically that week of Unbound, I did some riding around, some of the group rides, other things, but had a week that I was going to camp. Otherwise, I'm really kind of trying to ramp it up a lot.
Yeah, absolutely ramping it up. My next event we have going on July 16th here in Emporia, Kansas, Gravel City Night Out. You heard me in the intro to the show pitch this. 50 miles under a full moon in the Flint Hills of Kansas.
Yep.
GravelCityNightOut.com to get yourself registered for it. This is an event that's happened under a name, Lunar Ride, for the past couple of years. Kind of been a staple to our localish community, our regional community for the last couple of years. What do you remember about doing this event in the past, Neil?
Well, let's see, Matt. My best memory is, I believe it was 2019. If I'm not mistaken, I have to go back and check.
I believe you're right.
Sure.
I realized after I asked that question where this is going.
Yeah, it would definitely be us riding that North 50 that they took that year, and it was hot. It was disgusting.
Like weather we're having this last week.
Oh, we're talking like
100 plus.
Heat index, up in the hundreds for sure. I think that evening it was warm, and me and Tina Khan were riding, and you were not too far behind me. And I was riding with Tina Khan, talking to her, and we saw these folks hanging out by the pool, just cheering everybody on that was riding by. And I looked at Tina, and Tina looked at me. I said, "You want to see if they'll let us swim in their pool?" And she's like, "Heck yeah!" So we pull a Yui, and then you pull up, and another folk pulls up, and then eventually Caden, one of our high school riders at that time, pulls up. But jumping in their pool on that really hot day,
just north of Lake Cahola.
The way I look at Gravel City Night Out in the past Lunar Rides, it's all about just going and having fun on a bike, man. Like, this isn't a race.
It's not a race.
This is a really, really big group ride where you go out and you just do some fun things that maybe you wouldn't typically do. I mean, They've had a lot of different things I know in the past, and I don't know what all you guys have planned. Maybe you can talk about that here in a little bit, but I mean, it's always got some fun things that are tied into it. There's always a nice little block party I know in the past afterwards, and it's just a good time to come out and enjoy some community.
I can speak obviously on what we have going on with it. 50 miles and a 25-mile route option. We are going southwest of Emporia. That's kind of what I'll say for the route right now. There's going to be 2 checkpoints on the 50-mile route, 1 on the 25 out there. Probably going to have like a 6 p.m. start and an 8 p.m. start. We need to do waves. We can't do this kind of trickle out of town, just the way the city wants us to do things, just to keep it safe for everybody. Go out You're going to have a great time. It's a great route. It's a fairly iconic route you're going to be on. Maybe going in different directions than we're used to in some of these loops. Field limit this year of 500. We're safe, but get registered. You're going to have plenty of space to get in. But what we're going to do is we have a block party set up. It'll be set up behind the bike shop there. We're going to have live music, I believe, from 10:30 to 11:30, 10:30 to midnight, something like that.
Nice.
Multiple food trucks. Everybody that signs up before the registration date of July 3rd. So coming up quick, gets a T-shirt and a meal ticket along with the ride itself.
I mean, T-shirt, meal ticket, that's right there. It covers a chunk of your registration, so that's pretty awesome. Again, I look at it it's a fun night on bikes with friends. I mean, really.
And that's all we're intending, for it to be. It's supposed to be a community event. Get out, ride bikes, have fun with each other.
And the thing is, too, this is just me. I know I'm local, so I get to ride these roads a lot and probably have ridden a lot of the roads that are ultimately going to be on this route. But for those that are not locals that do want to come out and do this, this is your opportunity to get to ride and to get to soak in everything. This is your chance to say, you know what, okay, in the past I've done, events up here and it's race pace and it's going fast and you don't really stop to look and see what's out there. Maybe you catch, glimpses here and there, but this is the opportunity to come out and say, hey, I'm going to go out, party pace it, have a good time, hang out with some folks, meet some new people. I mean, I can say every year I've done it, I've met new people, hung out with new people, and always had fun.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. So, like I said, gravelcitynightout.com. Go there, get registered through Bike Reg. July 3rd cutoff. Can't wait to see you in Emporia, Kansas for packet pickup and to hang out and just have a good time with our cycling community.
Is the July 3rd cutoff the cutoff for T-shirts and meal ticket? Can they still register after that, or is it July 3rd's a hard cutoff?
July 3rd's a hard cutoff.
Okay.
So coming up quickly. We have a week, 10 days.
10 days.
Something like that to get registered. So get registered, gravelcitynightout.com. Neil, so we've been talking Night Out. We've been talking Unbound. Do you know what else has been a big milestone in this time since Unbound?
I think you got a new bike, Matt.
It was New Bike Day.
New Bike Day.
It was. It's kind of an addiction.
Yeah.
You work in a bike shop and walk around bikes all day, and things just kind of happen.
Yeah. So tell us about this bike that you got, Matt.
So I'm like, what's unique to me? What would be something so unique that no one's ever thought of before? I'm like, I need a steel Niner frame that's single speed. Have you ever?
That's real unique, Matt.
Have you ever seen a single speed Niner?
Yeah, Matt, I have.
Oh, is this a sore subject?
Yeah, I have a single speed Niner, Matt.
Well, we have very similar single speed Niners now. There was a frame at the shop that was calling my name. I mean, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of miles I've rode around you with the single speed. I was not on a single speed.
Yeah.
You were on the single speed, and I made fun of you most of the time.
Yeah, so, back in 2017, I got my single speed, and I rode that single speed for 2 years before putting gears on it because we were planning some big bikepacking adventures that were fantastic that we don't need to talk about anymore. But I put some gears on it, and
just went downhill from there.
It absolutely went downhill from there. The bike was no longer fun with gears on it, and so here about 2 months ago, I think I brought it in shortly after you had took over working at the shop and managing it, and said, "Okay, Matt, it's time to get this bike set back up to single speed." And I've been loving getting back on my single speed. And then when I hear that you were going to get basically a twinsy bike, it's a newer frame. It's a newer Niner steel frame than the one that I have. But it's got a little bit more clearance. I think that's pretty much about the biggest difference in the frames is the clearance for tires. But otherwise, there's definitely a twinsy Niner feel going on there.
There's very much a twins feeling.
Yeah.
Going on. But in case you ever wondered, if you follow us on Instagram, we're kind of fond of Casey's Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever wondered what producer Matt would do for a slice of pizza, it's 50 miles, hot day, single speed to Madison for a slice of breakfast pizza.
That's right.
That was Monday morning.
Yes.
Small
victories.
I will say, I've got to pull up the Snapchat. Isaac, our service manager, was just in the studio before we filmed here. We were debriefing on some things. I've got to find the Snapchat he sent because I wanted a Niner single speed to ride to and from work all day. It was just going to be a commuter bike. I live 0.85 miles from the bike shop is my house to the shop. All back city streets, never on busy traffic ways. I've got.
As he's looking for that, let me be very clear. He did not want it just for commuting. He did mention that occasionally
to commute on. I'm like, people are crazy to go ride a single speed this many miles.
But here's the thing, and I do know this. So you got it officially, I think, going when I was gone at camp, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
so
a week before.
You had it before then. Well, we hadn't ridden, though, on
Correct.
At that point. So I don't think you had even ridden much.
I took that Thursday night out.
And so you took that Thursday night group ride, and you're like, this is fun.
It was very much fun. I've had it 2 weeks now, 2.5 weeks. I have not touched the other bikes, the Fargo or the Loft. Though the Loft and the Fargo are going to have to come back out to get ready for Gravel Worlds later this summer.
Not going to single speed Gravel Worlds?
No.
Do it.
No, these are the voices I don't need in my head. 150 is going to be hard for me to scratch out. Anyways.
It's a big ride.
But anyways, I put a couple 100 miles in the last 2 weeks on the single speed. Isaac was making fun of me because I kept telling him, I'm like, dude, quit specking out this high-end stuff. I'm like, I just need a commuter. Back and forth. And he sent me this quote in air quotes after our ride Monday, basically something along the lines of, all I need's a commuter bike, nothing serious.
So what pieces are we going to be specking out for this commuter bike here shortly?
I don't need it. This is all I need. But fantastic bike. I truly did not understand what Neil and people have always said about being single speed. It's just a lot of fun. You get on and ride.
There's a weird joy that I think really you capture on a single speed that at least I had like as a kid. Where you just get on a pedal. Now I understand that what we do, especially as you get further south and some of the bigger hills around here, or further north in some of the bigger hills, some of those can be a little bit more difficult. Some of those can be a little bit more difficult to get up in the single speeds, but it is very much reminiscent to me of hopping on my bike as a 10, 12-year-old, maybe even younger, 8-year-old, riding around, no gears.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have bikes with gears until I was in my late teens, and saying, let's just go. Have fun and enjoy myself. And that's what I felt from the first time I rode a single speed.
This is where I'm at right now. I just want to ride bikes, have fun, have a good time with people. Back to the Gravel City Night Out, back to seeing everybody for UNBOUND. Yeah. Wrapping up the show here, Neil, any parting thoughts? Obviously, moving forward, we're going to talk getting ready for the double.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where all my focus is at. I've got some other events locally that I'll probably jump on just to kind of stretch the legs out a little bit here and there, but otherwise the focus really for me is all double from here on out. I just actually, before we got in the studio, had finished up a 6-mile run in the heat.
Wow.
Just to kind of try to get used to the heat. 6 is about all I can do right now without having to throw the hydration pack on, though, because it's just so hot and humid.
For me, my focus is Gravel City Night Out. First of all, July 16th, get signed up, gravelcitynightout.com. Help them promote that, grow that into just being a community building, getting our friends and family out on gravel, 25-mile route, 50-mile route. We just want to prove that everybody's capable to get out on their bikes and have a good time. That's the first priority. Second priority, I need to shift gears. That's a bad pun.
Yeah, you can't shift gears anymore, Matt.
Yeah, I'm on a single speed, can't shift gears. But getting ready for Gravel Worlds, that's coming up very quick in August. Enjoying that. I want to make sure I'm in a place where I can have fun at Gravel Worlds with it.
Yeah, and I think, here over the next few months, we have about 2 months until Gravel Worlds takes place. We'll be doing a lot of riding. We'll be in here hopefully talking about some of that riding. And definitely, I would say probably previewing some Gravel World stuff too,
yes,
I assume.
100%. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming and saying hello to us during UNBOUND here in Emporia, Kansas. We appreciate it. And stay tuned for our next episode here on Gravel Guru.